For millions of years, the hunt was a brutal, desperate dance of proximity. Humanity, even with its nascent stone tools, was an underdog. To kill the great beasts that provided sustenance, our ancestors had to get dangerously, terrifyingly close. Imagine facing a charging woolly rhino, a towering mammoth, or a stampeding herd of bison, armed only with a hand axe or a short, thrusting spear. The risk of being trampled, gored, or simply outrun was immense. This was the world before the leap. A world where survival depended on sheer courage, brute force, and often sheer luck. Many hunts ended in failure, injury, or death. Protein, the fuel for our evolving brains, was a feast or famine lottery. The human body, though capable, was not built for a fair fight against the true giants of the Ice Age. Our reach was too short, our speed too limited. We were still prey, even when we hunted. But desperation breeds ingenuity. The same mind that saw a tool within a stone began to see new possibilities in a fallen branch. The simple act of throwing a stick at a fleeing animal was a basic instinct. But what if that stick was sharpened? What if it could be thrown harder, faster, further? This was the quiet genesis of the spear. Not just a pointy stick, but a dedicated projectile weapon. The earliest spears were likely fire-hardened wooden shafts, perhaps with a basic, sharp stone attached with sinew. This innovation, though seemingly small, was monumental. It allowed our ancestors to engage prey from a safer distance, reducing the immediate danger. The spear transformed the dynamics of the hunt. It fostered cooperation. A single hunter with a spear was still vulnerable, but a coordinated group, surrounding and pelting a large animal with multiple spears, could now bring down targets previously unimaginable. This demanded complex communication, advanced planning, and a higher level of social cohesion. The spear was not just a tool for killing. It was a catalyst for more sophisticated society. However, even with the spear, there were limits. The human arm, powerful as it is, can only propel a projectile so far and so fast. The truly colossal beasts, the fastest antelope, still often escaped. The range of the human hunt was extended, but not fully liberated. The hunter's mind, always seeking an advantage, yearned for more. It sought to extend its reach even further, to cheat the distance, to turn the very act of throwing into an art of lethal precision. The stage was set for the next, even greater leap, an invention that would amplify the human arm and redefine the meaning of distant kill. The human arm had reached its limit, but the human mind had not. The next great leap in hunting technology came from a simple, elegant understanding of physics. The principle of the lever. The invention was the Atlatl, or spear thrower. The Atlatl is a deceptively simple device, a stick with a handle on one end and a hook or spur on the other that engages the butt of a spear or a lighter dart. But its effect is revolutionary. By artificially extending the length of the thrower's arm, it acts as a lever, multiplying the force and speed of the projectile. Imagine a hunter with an Atlatl. As he whips it forward, the spear is propelled not just by the motion of his arm, but by the final, powerful snap of his wrist, transferred and amplified by the Atlatl. The result is a projectile that can fly faster, further, and with far greater penetrating power than anything thrown by hand alone. A spear thrown with an Atlatl can reach speeds of over 90 miles per hour. This was not just an improvement, it was a game changer. The effective killing range for a human hunter instantly tripled, or even quadrupled. The great beasts of the Ice Age, the bison, the giant elk, the wild horse, were no longer safe from a distance. A well-aimed dart from an Atlatl could pierce the thickest hide, delivering a lethal blow from a range that was previously unthinkable. The Atlatl transformed our ancestors into the undisputed apex predators of their environment. They could now hunt more successfully, more safely, and more efficiently than ever before. This led to a population boom, a flourishing of human culture, and the confidence to migrate into new, more challenging territories. The peopling of the Americas, for instance, was likely made possible by these Atlatl-wielding big-game hunters crossing the Bering Land Bridge. But the Atlatl was more than just a tool. It was the first true weapon system. It required a specific type of projectile, a lighter, more flexible dart, and a high degree of skill to master. Archaeological finds show Atlatls that were not just functional but were beautifully carved and decorated with animal figures. These were personal, prized possessions, objects of both practical power and spiritual significance. With the Atlatl in hand, Humanity was no longer just chipping away at the edges of the natural world. We were now a dominant force, capable of projecting lethal power across great distances. The desperate reach had become a confident, deadly strike. The lever of life had lifted humanity to the very top of the food chain. The Atlatl was a tool of supreme efficiency, a masterpiece of physics that made humanity the master of its domain. But to see it as only a tool is to miss the deeper revolution. For the Ice Age hunter, the Atlatl and its dart were not just objects. They were extensions of their very being, imbued with spirit, art, and the soul of the hunt. Archaeological discoveries from this period are stunning. We find Atlatls carved not just for function but for beauty. A simple wooden shaft is transformed into a leaping bison. A bone hook is shaped into the head of a graceful bird. These were not mere decorations. They were powerful symbols, art created by a mind that now had the time and the security to think beyond mere survival. The darts themselves were often painted with red ochre and adorned with intricate geometric patterns. Why? Perhaps it was a personal signature, a way to identify one's own dart after a communal hunt. Or perhaps it was something deeper, a ritualistic act to imbue the weapon with a magical or spiritual power, to guide its flight and ensure a clean kill. This is the birth of ritual in technology. The hunt was no longer just a physical act of killing for food. It was becoming a sacred drama, a conversation between the hunter, the weapon, and the spirit of the animal. We see this reflected in the cave art of the period, where figures are sometimes depicted holding what appear to be atlatls, their prey marked with symbolic wounds. The creation of an atlatl was itself a skilled, time-consuming process. It required a deep understanding of wood, bone, and stone. This knowledge was passed down from generation to generation, likely accompanied by stories, songs, and rituals. The making of a weapon was also the making of a culture. The Atlatl did more than just feed the body. It fed the mind. It gave our ancestors the confidence and the security to build a more complex social world. With a more reliable food source, clans could grow larger. They could afford to support artisans and storytellers. They could trade finely crafted Atlatl points with other groups. The simple lever that launched a spear had also launched a cultural explosion. It had given us the time to dream, to create, and to ask bigger questions about our place in the world. The hunter was no longer just a killer. He was becoming an artist, a philosopher, and the keeper of a sacred tradition. The Atlatl was a weapon of unparalleled power, a testament to human ingenuity. For tens of thousands of years, it reigned supreme, allowing our ancestors to thrive in the harshest environments and dominate the vast megafauna of the Ice Age. It was the ultimate expression of the long arm, the ability to project lethal force from a distance. But history is a relentless march of innovation. As the Ice Age ended and the great herds of large animals began to disappear, a new challenge emerged. Smaller, faster, more agile prey became the primary food source. The powerful but somewhat slow and cumbersome Atlatl, with its longer darts, was no longer the ideal tool for every hunt. The hunter's leap had taught humanity the value of ranged weaponry. The next evolution, driven by changing environmental pressures and an ever-adapting mind, was the bow and arrow. The bow, a flexible piece of wood under immense tension, could launch a lighter, shorter arrow with incredible speed and accuracy, making it ideal for smaller, faster game. It was also more compact and easier to use in dense forests. Yet even with the advent of the bow, the legacy of the Atlatl endured. The fundamental principle, the power of stored energy to propel a projectile, was perfected by the bow. But the bow also required a higher level of material science, a deeper understanding of wood elasticity and string tension. It was a more complex but ultimately more versatile evolution of the same ranged hunting concept. The long arm created by the spear and Atlatl had other profound impacts beyond hunting. It was a tool of war. The ability to kill from a distance transformed intergroup conflict. Battles were no longer purely about hand-to-hand combat. They became tests of ranged accuracy and tactical planning. The Atlatl likely saw use in the first human conflicts, setting the stage for the archers and slingers of later empires. Furthermore, the mastery of ranged killing contributed directly to the agricultural revolution. With more reliable hunting techniques and a higher protein diet, human populations grew. This growing population, combined with the shrinking megafauna, put immense pressure on traditional hunting grounds. forcing our ancestors to look for new food sources and eventually leading to the domestication of plants and animals. The spear and Atlatl were more than just weapons. They were the catalysts for human expansion, social complexity, and ultimately, civilization itself. They honed our minds for planning, cooperation, and technological innovation. Every modern projectile, every bullet, every missile, every rocket to the moon owes a debt to that first hunter who found a way to make his arm impossibly long. The desperate leap of a vulnerable primate had become the confident stride of a species that would eventually reach for the stars. The hunter's leap had transformed not just the hunt, but the very trajectory of human destiny.
We have mastered the hunt. We have become the apex predator, our power extending as far as a spear can fly. With our bellies full and our clans secure, a new, deeper hunger began to stir. A hunger not for meat, but for meaning. Our ancestors turned their gaze inward. They descended from the sunlit world into the absolute darkness, the silent, womb-like depths of the earth. They carried with them a flickering flame and a new, startling purpose, not to conquer the world, but to understand it. On the cold stone walls of these secret galleries, they created the first masterpieces of human history, painting the souls of the great beasts and the shadows of their own minds. Why did they do it? Was it magic, religion, or the first great story ever told? Next time, we journey deep into the earth, into the darkness, to hear the echoes of the first artists,